You, sir.
Hi, Jack Pasovic, long-time listener, first-time caller. Just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who's here putting together the panel today. You guys are the cutting edge. The cutting edge not only in this fight for rights, but a fight for the digital revolution in information democratization that's going on right now. So I applaud your efforts today. My question is, and this is certainly something that's come up a lot recently, is the regulation on some of these big tech companies. What type of regulations would, and this is sort of an open question for whoever would like to answer, what type of regulations would we be talking about? What would we be looking at in terms of that? Because certainly as people that lean more to the right, more conservative, regulations are not usually something you hear from the conservative sphere. That being said, we find ourselves in a new situation with new infrastructure, new channels of communications, and the laws just don't seem to kind of match up with the system we're using today.
Can I say something? Sure. You know, they broke up Ma Bell, right? It was a communications company. They broke up Ma Bell, and ironically, the CEO of Ma Bell, which became AT&T, has proposed an Internet Bill of Rights. Randall Stevenson, and I'm going to quote, yes? He said that the Internet Bill of Rights would subject Facebook, Google, and other content providers to rules that would prevent unfair censoring on Internet service providers. Quote, congressional action is needed to establish an Internet Bill of Rights that applies to all Internet companies and guarantees neutrality, transparency, openness, non-discrimination, and privacy protection for all Internet users. Boom. I don't want their money. Listen, I'm a capitalist. I always think in antitrust. I don't believe in it at all. This is the one case where this is the public square, and it's government sanctioned. There's a government sanction of the censorship. I don't think it contradicts with anything that you know is in our constitutional rights. I think it fits right in.
Thanks, Pam.
I have.
Could I add one thing, and then to Oleg? I think another thing too is right now there's no transparency. A couple weeks ago, Facebook announced that they're going to change their algorithms, and so several sites could expect different results. They've done this in the past. Sometimes they've announced it. Sometimes it just hit us, and we just noticed that things changed.
Right.
And I can tell you that every time they made a change, our traffic from Facebook went down. And again, we're a website, Gateway Pundit, where our traffic is going up each month. But our Facebook traffic continues to take these hits every couple months. So I also know, because we spoke with our advertisers, and we said, so you're seeing this on all sites. Some of our advertisers work with conservatives and liberal sites. So we asked them, you're seeing this on all sites? And they're saying, no, we're only seeing this on conservative sites.
Right.
The liberal sites, their traffic and the money they make continues to grow. So what we need is, what Pamela said, is we need some sort of act or rules, but we also need these tech giants. We just need transparency. Just show how we're doing, and show how these other people are doing too. Because we don't know. We don't know if it's all hidden today. Their algorithms are hidden. Their results are hidden. And so to make it fair, the left likes to talk about how they want justice and fairness, and we all want that. Just make it transparent.
If I can add on to one thing that I think is also extremely important is that adds on to the transparency is we need to know what they're doing with data that they're collecting from us. Because they're collecting an enormous amount of data, and what people need to understand is you are the product. They own the data, and they don't tell you what they're doing with it. They're sharing it with other providers, Facebook and Google and Twitter. They all share data with each other. The example that I like to give people is if you compare the enormous impact that the hacking attempt, or at least the hacking at Equifax had, that data source that got compromised, if you were to cross-reference that with data that can be taken from Google, you have an incredibly detailed profile on somebody's life. And we don't know what they're doing with the data. And I think there's now some of the there's one attorney general, I believe, I think it's in Missouri, who's actually now starting to hold Google responsible, or accountable for telling people, consumers, what they're doing with the data and exactly how it will be used. And I think that's something we need at, you know, on a national level, is they need to tell consumers what they collect, how the data will be used.
All right, I have a comment here. Of course, this is a very slippery slope, and we don't want, as conservatives and libertarians, we oppose government intervention into business, and we don't want them to do something that they don't want to do. But what we want, the government has the right, and we want to make those companies not do certain things. It's like the negative bill of rights, the negative rights under the Constitution. You do not censor. Actually, it will cost those companies less money not to do these things. So it's not, we're not forcing them to do things they don't like. Now, we repealed net neutrality because we don't want the FCC to treat the web like a public utility, which then would subject information to government censorship, because then the government, as a public utility, the government will have the right to regulate free speech, and that's a very slippery slope. But in contrast, if we go through the Bureau of Consumer Protection, then it would treat the internet as a marketplace where information will be treated as any commercial product, and it needs to be protected from fraud. Let me read here. The Bureau of Consumer Protection has a stated goal to stop unfair, deceptive, and fraudulent business practices. And that is what is happening right now with the social media. These are deceptive business practices that we can address through a lawsuit, through this Bureau of Consumer Protection.
Thank you, Oleg.
So we have time for one more question.
Again, I want to thank you guys so much for doing this, and I want you to know that the shadow banning panel is being shadow banned right now. I just got a message from one of my good friends at Overpasses for America, a site that has over 100,000 viewers. The more he has shared this, the lower the viewer numbers have gone down. So we're actually experiencing it live right now. My question is, I have noticed that actually my viewers are also ultimately being targeted by share bans. They are blocked from sharing to pages by sharing my page, and that attack that is against us, media individuals, is actually being passed onto viewers. I know even personally in my own life, my husband, who doesn't do any social media, our business was attacked by refusefascism.org after I started doing Trump Talk US. We were actually forced to close our business due to that. So we've already reached Kristallnacht at this point. I mean, I feel like we've already gotten to the point where we are, it's not just endangering to ourselves, but we see that risk to even the people who are trying to consume the media. And we see connections with radical groups such as Antifa and other leftist, terrorist, domestic groups. What is your experience with that? And are there ways that we can go after perhaps criminal connections with these terrorist groups in these organizations? And what are you experiencing as far as your viewers are concerned with them getting attacked?
Well, my Facebook followers are I must get at least 20 emails a day. I tell everyone to take screenshots. Everybody wants to join the lawsuit. Put me on your lawsuit. And of course it's tricky because these silicon companies are in California where they have SLAPP. Mm-hmm. And so if I lost, I would be responsible for their legal bills. I mean, they could literally destroy you. And as I said, I understand when you click that box where you were saying you agree to terms of service. I understand that whole legal argument, but to your point, we are being targeted. And this is not the second, this is not the 8th, this is not the 10th. This is the First Amendment, and it's first for a reason. It protects all speech, most specifically political speech, because then who's going to decide what's good and what's forbidden? The government, Mark Zuckerberg, CARE, okay? I mean, so my people are targeted, they're constantly being put in Facebook jail, and the worse it gets, the worse they get. They continue to act with, absolute impunity. And we need some government, legislation. She brings up all the data that they're collecting. So let's understand this. They're collecting all this data, making an enormous amount of money, almost incomprehensible. And you're silencing us? You're getting rich off us, and you're silencing us? I don't know who's going to carry the ball on this, but I believe, like with President Trump, he listens. He listens to his base. He does. And I think if we can move this ball, as I said, build this coalition. And we all owe Jim an enormous amount of gratitude and thanks for organizing this, because we can't, we're letting it happen at this point. It's not too late. We need antitrust enforcers to move the ball on this. Absolutely.
If I could just reply to your point, when you were saying sharing aspects of where you have people that belong to a specific group, we knew in 2013 and 2014 the IRS was doing this. They would find a Tea Party group on Facebook. They were sharing posts that were very pro-Tea Party. We knew that the IRS would then go and try to find out where they were getting their money, and they would face an audit. The shift has moved. The policing now, we always knew that these tech companies were policing. We didn't know what they were doing with the data. We knew that they were collecting it. We knew that telecom giants were collecting it. And when Ola was speaking, I kept thinking of this, in Moscow they have something called the House of the Embankment. It's an apartment building now. It used to be, when Stalin was in power, he would put his friends in the House of the Embankment. And the walls were constantly listening to you. And if someone said something that he didn't like, they were quietly removed. And I think that the strength comes from a discussion like this. We all know that we want to do something about it. Yes, lawsuits are great. Yes, regulation is great. But the strength comes in banding and the number and not being an individual targeted. And the best way to combat this, and I love the fact that everybody on this panel, they seem like a reporter to me. And I used to be really shy. I love these issues so much. I kind of have to break through that sometimes to talk about them. But the best thing that we can do is to continue to share it and to speak out, to speak out, to speak out. And I'm hoping that Jim makes headway with a subcommittee hearing, getting this before Congress, because they're not going to be able to ignore it. And this issue is largely ignored, but I think part of our strength is just in our numbers.
I completely agree with that. I think that a big part of it is continuing to talk, because the analogy that I like to use is with shadow banning especially, it's what the excuse that the tech companies hide behind is like, well, we're not infringing on your free speech. We're allowing you to speak. Well, what they're doing is they're just taking away your audience. So you're shouting into the abyss. And as long as you think that you're by yourself, you stop speaking. And to me, the answer is we just need to keep shouting, because they can't ban us all. They can't shadow ban everybody. Just keep talking and keep documenting and keep reporting and sharing with people their experiences, because what you're saying as far as your groups being targeted, that is absolutely true. Twitter has, when they announced the changes to their user terms of service in December, they announced that they're now doing, they're tracking you off their platform. It's not that difficult to do. They use your IP address. They monitor your behavior on all other social media platforms. They can use the location devices on your phone to let you know, and they can monitor where you are in real life. And based on that, they know who your followers are, who you follow. So they have huge groups of people that they can easily target and easily track. And the key thing is to keep talking and to share experiences, because in the end, if there really is strength in numbers, and people can deny what's happening if there's enough stories coming out.
And we will win. Oh, that's the Supreme Court case that you cited, where hate speech, it's purely subjective, My organization was involved in that lawsuit because I had tried to trademark one of my groups to stop Islamization of America. And I was denied that trademark because they said it was disparaging. That it was disparaging to Muslims. And there was another group, the Slants, an Asian group, an Asian rock group, who called themselves the Slants. And they said they couldn't have their trademark but they're Asian. They're calling themselves the Slants, whatever. And then, of course, the Redskins, as you know. But since 2009, we've been fighting that. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And just right before I came to D.C., I got my little trademark certificate. SIA, Stop Islamization of America, is now a designated trademark. You will win. We will win. But you can't, one thing about the left you have to admire, they never get tired. no matter how much they lose, they never stop. It's sort of, it's this kind of, it's an ADD, you know? It's a kind of craziness. We can learn from that. We can learn from that craziness.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, that does conclude our event today. I want to thank our incredible panelists for offering their insight. Wonderful.
Introduce them by name one more time.
Okay, we got Oleg, Jim, Marianne, Pam, Marlene.
Wonderful.
Margaret, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.